Welcome to Crossbridge. Today we're going to talk about what we can call non-judgmental metacognition, most known as mindfulness, and its advantages, its disadvantages, its meanings, and so on and so forth. So let's begin by discussing. We'll start with the basics. The idea of concentration. So the first thing that's necessary is to concentrate on some sort of activity or something that your body does or that you can have around you. So for example, you can concentrate on staring at the wall, though that seems a little bit odd. You perhaps can concentrate on the breath, that's the more normal circumstance. You can concentrate on literally looking at your hand or looking at a body part. And the reason for that concentration is to begin to focus upon something and get into a position where, as a result, you end up with a certain sense of stillness and perhaps a certain sense of awareness. Now, first of all, once you gain that awareness, what type of awareness are we discussing? Well, we're going to the concept is to develop a sense of self-awareness. And so if I said to you, well, you're allowed to do such things as stare at the wall, you could argue, well, how am I going to develop a sense of self-awareness by doing so? And that's because the first step is to concentrate on something so that you're aware of just your surroundings and in a position of stillness. Now, the phrase non-judgmental metacognition, the first one that matters most perhaps is the word metacognition. This is to think about what you're thinking. So once you're in this sense of concentration, so you've begun to concentrate on something, you begin to focus, you begin to get into a position of stillness, and perhaps it's arguable that it doesn't matter per se what you're concentrating on, as long as there is a sense of stillness that's available and that you can focus on one thing. Then what might happen from there is you may notice, this is step one perhaps, you may notice that you begin to lose focus after a while. You may become knowledgeable of that, and you'll have to then regain your focus. The second thing you might do is you might notice such things known as automatic thoughts that just come into your mind and you have perhaps no control over the fact that they came into your mind. And as a result, since you have noticed that these thoughts have come into your mind, then by definition, you have lost focus. You're no longer just concentrating on staring at the wall or staring at your hand or trying to feel a part of your body or trying to focus on the breath. And so, again, these two come hand in hand. The loss of focus and trying to concentrate back on that focus and knowing that that's a part of the dance, to concentrate, to notice you lose it and gain back that concentration. Sometimes when you lose that focus, it is because you are thinking, because there are automatic thoughts. And so you begin to notice your automatic thoughts because you are aware that you lost your focus. So that is why perhaps I could argue that it doesn't matter per se what you concentrate on, although it is advantageous for it to allow for a certain sense of stillness or for it to be something to do with you personally. However, the main concept is that the exercise of realizing that you lost focus and bringing it back will begin to allow you to realize that sometimes you lose focus by way of thinking, by way of automatic thoughts. And then when you go back to focusing on whatever you're focusing on, for example, the breath, then there is a sense of what was I thinking? What was I thinking? And with time, you will be present in noticing what you're thinking about when you lose focus. You will notice what you're thinking about, and then you will come back to what you're focusing or meant to be focusing upon. And hence the phrase metacognition, thinking about what you're thinking or being aware of what you're thinking. In that, when you concentrate on something, you lose focus, you go into a sense of automatic thoughts, thinking patterns, thinking habits, change of thoughts. You notice that that's happening and you bring it back. In that moment, you are being metacognitive. You are being aware of your thinking, and this is why metacognition is part of this construct here. The non-judgmental part we can come back to at a later point. But the idea is, for now, the idea is that there is a sense of requiring a concentration on something such that you can notice when you lose focus, and some of the times in which you lose focus will be by way of automatic thoughts, for which then you go back to the focus And in so doing that, you become aware of these automatic thoughts. And with time, you can become aware of the thinking patterns, the thinking habits, the chains of thoughts. And what you then gain from this is that first step of just concentrating on something, being mildly still, that first step of focusing on something and being mildly still dissipates into, I wouldn't even use the words dissipates actually, that's not the correct phrase. I would say that first step of being mildly focused, being focused and concentrating on something allows for you to recognize what thoughts you have and then move away from them and go back to the focus. And so it's a sense of increased awareness of these thoughts, but at the same time, it's by way of letting them go. It's by way of concentrating on something else and then going back to that concentration afterwards, rather than dwelling on them or thinking about them further.